Hey, everybody, welcome to the Grow Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Kevin McNulty, and this is your personal development school of growth, where each week my guests and I will bring and break down big ideas and practices that will help you learn, grow, and succeed in life. Thanks for checking us out. Now let the growth begin. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Grow Yourself, your personal development school of growth, where we try to deep dive into topics that we hope help shape us and guide us and teach us and really push us to grow and just to be better people and professionals every day. So today we are honored to have a truly fascinating guest. Dr. Bernhard Kutzler is a man who has been passionately curious throughout his life. He started his journey studying mathematics and becoming a scientist and a businessman. And then along the way, he also became a nutritionist, a psychological hand reader, a numerologist, an alchemist, and I think if I push him, probably an astronaut as well. This man has done so much. And by the way, also a dancer, a singer, and a writer. I mean, just really maybe one of the more well-rounded guests I've ever had. But in any event, so in 2009, he ended his career, though, in mathematics to start a career in, as a mental coach. However, and then again, in 2014, he ended this career to devote himself entirely to exploring the question, what am I? And, really to find a way to combine science and spirituality. And so he lived, wait for it, for 3.5 years without social interaction to find, to explore, to understand, to free himself from social programs that we probably can all agree that control us. And in the course of doing this, he developed a theory, what he calls a theory of mind, or TOM, which he has now expanded into the theory of everything. And I really just can't wait to understand that. So this resulted in 3 books, one on consciousness, one on curiosity, and one on being free. His explorations have really centered around, but are not limited to, the nature of our existence, consciousness, social programming, personal growth, and really all methods of self-exploration. He loves what he does and has never had a more fulfilling life. So he has 3 books, and we'll talk about them a little bit. One's called Consciousness. It's nature, purpose, and how to use it. Being free, get out of the box, the method of 99 exercises. And then his third one is Curiosity, the mental hunger of humans. And I can't wait to ask him about that. So ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Bernhard Kutzler. Bernhard, thank you so much for being here with us on Grow Yourself.
Thank you, Kevin, for having me.
It's just a pleasure. Now, you are coming to us by way of Austria, is that correct? Is it Vienna, I think, or?
That's correct. No, it's in Upper Austria.
Yeah.
It's one of the 9 states of Austria. And I'm pretty much in the middle of Upper Austria.
I see.
Very close to the mountains.
Well, I'll say me. I call all of that the Austrian Alps and the Bavarian Alps and Swiss Alps. That's God's country right there. It's just extraordinary. And by the way, while people are listening in, I want to just encourage anybody who's listening, you must go to Austria and you must see the Alps and just see this beautiful, beautiful country that you have. So Bernhard, go ahead, please jump in.
Actually, the nature, because you just talked about
the
beauty of the Alps. When I socially isolated myself for 3.5 years, I spent as much time as humanly possible in nature. And so nature was a key part of my journey.
Wow.
Because nature is free from human programs.
Yeah.
Nature really floods you with truthfulness.
Yes. Why though, Bernhard? Why is it that when, because I experience this too, if I go anywhere into the nature and really even isolated, but maybe even with others, but why does it change our feeling?
So from a physiological point of view, it calms down our nervous system.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so we become more relaxed. For example, when we hear birds singing.
Yeah.
Birds sing only when there is no danger.
I didn't know that.
So by hearing the sounds of birds, we get the message you are safe, so we can relax.
I did not know that. That is amazing. Not that I should have, but that's fascinating. Well, let me ask you this. You went to explore the question, what am I? And I've heard many, perhaps even myself, who did some self-discovery or self-exploration, but the question really was, who am I? And so why, what am
I? The question, who am I, as I understand it, is the attempt to find out what kind of human I am among all humans. So I'm still asking this question in front of the image we have of humans, which actually is the result of social programming. The question, what am I, goes deeper. With the question, what am I, I'm not only questioning myself relative to humankind, I'm questioning what a human is.
Very interesting. That's you know, I always, I guess, sort of considered who am I a bit of a deeper question, but in the way that you pose it, it's really not, because as you said, you're really more comparing yourself to others, right? I mean, you can't help but to do this. This is the way that we figure it out, you know. So may I just ask then, perhaps the obvious, you know, if you ask the question, what am I? What are you?
I am mind inhabiting an ape body.
And what's the last one was what?
An ape body.
Ape?
The body of an ape.
Oh my goodness. I didn't
because
see
we
that.
are our closest relatives are the great apes.
Yeah.
That's our family. Gorillas, orangutans, chimpanzees, and bonobos. And we are part of this family tree. And we are obviously different than the other four great apes. And this comes from the fact that we have consciousness. And consciousness is a result from the ability to, from the motility, from the mental motility. So to put this a little bit in a bigger picture, I started the question, what am I? By asking myself, where does my behavior, where do my thoughts come from? And in order to understand myself, I said, okay, I need to understand an ape. I need to understand animals in general. I need to understand plants. Where does the behavior of plants come from? Where does the behavior of cells come from? So I really went back to the very, 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 very beginning of our history as living beings. And so I developed a deep understanding of why life forms behave the way we behave.
Interesting.
And basically, a cell is a microscopic life form. Then from that came multicellular life forms. And the first version of multicellular life forms was stationary, which is plants. And a plant can be seen as a collective of specialized cells. The next quantum leap in the development of life were animals. Now, what is an animal? An animal can be understood as a collective of specialized plants, because every tissue, every organ can be seen as a specialized plant. Animals are motile compared to the stationary plants. We have an extra form of motility, which is the mental motility. We can mentally go back in time. We can remember. And this ability to remember is the basis of the so-called I experience. Does this make sense to you?
It does, as in I, as in who am I? So that you look back and then maybe in the present moment, whatever moment that is, your collective experience then at least in your own mind, determines who you are at that moment. So you are who you are is based on your ability to recall all that you've done, and that's brought you there. Something along these lines, or
we are the only life form on this planet who can willfully remember.
Willfully remember. That's interesting. Dogs don't remember. I mean, my dog sees me and he wags his tail.
Yeah, but this is not remembering in the true sense of the word.
Interesting.
It's a familiarity.
I see.
A familiarity is a kind of unconscious remembering.
I see.
When you
instinctual,
yeah. So when you see somebody, or when you see someone or something, and you have the experience, I know this person. This person has been in my life before. I don't remember the name or when I saw this person or any other detail. It's just this experience of familiarity.
Very interesting.
That's familiarity. When I sit back and say, what did I do 2 days ago? What did I have for lunch 2 days ago? That's remembering. And this makes a very big difference in terms of how life is, because animals are always in the present. That's awareness.
Oh my, that's an interesting thought. It makes sense though.
As soon as we remember, part of our awareness energy, so to say, goes into the past, which means we are not 100% aware of the present anymore.
And then when you think about, the future, then it's the same concept, right? You're not obviously in the present, or at least fully in the present.
And you can use this as a kind of a proof that non-human life forms cannot remember the way we can remember. Because if, say, a zebra standing at a water hole would actively remember, willfully remember what it did yesterday, then it would not be 100% aware of the present and could just not be aware of an approaching lion. While all the other zebras who are not remembering actively, so 100% aware, could flee. So this one remembering zebra has a lower chance of survival than a non-remembering zebra.
Wow, that's fascinating. It almost is almost counterintuitive, really, in some ways. But let me ask then, so So Bernhard, where then did consciousness come into play in your way of thinking?
The word consciousness comes from two Latin words, con and scire. Con means together, and scire means to know. So consciousness means to know together, or to know a togetherness. And knowing our own history is a togetherness of knowings, because in the present we have a knowing, and every moment a new knowing replaces the old knowing. So the result is a collection of previous knowings. It's like a book of my life or a film of my life. And if I know of this book or film, because I can go back, I can remember, this phenomenon is aptly called consciousness. So consciousness is something fundamentally different from awareness, although these two words often are used as synonyms.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
But it's important, if you really want to understand what you are, and for this, I need to understand what life is. I need to understand the nature of our existence. Then I can't use such, say, fuzzy terminology. I need to know exactly what is consciousness, what is awareness, and so on. And since I'm a mathematician, I'm used to 100% accurate definitions. So I approached this as a mathematician, with the meticulousness of a mathematician. And that's why the whole process ended in a theory of mind.
I see. And tell me how how you believe as a mathematician, this played into your boy. I'm not even sure what the right question is, but how does someone who goes into this abstract mode of understanding consciousness or curiosity or whatever the case might be, but you have a mathematic mindset or a mathematic brain, if that's the way to say that, how do you feel like these two things came together and played out your understanding of
you mean in my journey?
Yes. Where, because it does seem to me that if we were to talk about mathematicians on a scale of 1 to 10, and let's say a good mathematician is around an 8, I'm probably around a 1 or maybe a half. So when I think about things, I think a lot from the right brain, more creatively, more abstractly. But you as a mathematician, obviously you involve your right brain, but it's a left brain function, really. So how does this all come together to think about your journey and consciousness and all these things? It's a hard question, sorry.
No problem. The question is, what is mathematics here? Because most people have a certain understanding or a belief what mathematics is. My approach to mathematics is the science of patterns.
Okay.
Mathematics is thinking technology. Mathematics is the art of finding perspectives from which the answer to a question or the solution to a problem is obvious.
Okay.
And as a mathematician, I have a major advantage, which played out in the case of my exploration of myself and of consciousness, which is I'm not bound by the physical universe. And to illustrate this, I tell you my all-time favorite mathematician's joke. It goes as follows. A mathematician, a physicist, and a biologist are sitting in a coffee shop. They see a a small truck parked on the other side of the road. And after 15 minutes, they agree that this truck is empty. After 10 minutes, 2 people enter the truck. After 5 minutes, 3 people leave the truck. The biologist says, that's obvious, the 2 reproduced. The physicist said, oh no, it's much simpler. Our assumption that the car was empty was wrong.
Okay.
The mathematician says, no, gentlemen, the solution is simpler than that. If 1 more person enters the truck will be empty again. Which means for a physicist, the idea of -1 person being in the truck is impossible because it's not a reality, can't be a reality in the physical universe. For a mathematician, that's an option like any other.
That's very interesting. Fascinating.
So, and I was the attempt to sort of reverse engineer myself, which is the process of understanding myself so deeply that I could build myself as an engineer. There was one point in my research where I was not able to find a solution in the physical universe. So I had to go beyond the physical universe. And my simple approach was to say, what is the essence of the physical universe? And the essence of the physical universe is separateness. That's the essence of space, of matter. 2 points are separate, so I need time to go from A to B. Matter has extension, so there are borders which are separate. And so this is the kingdom, so to say, the kingdom of separateness. Now, if there's a kingdom of separateness, there's probably also a kingdom of non-separateness. And then, to cut a long story short, I derived some properties of this kingdom of non-separateness and finally gave it a name. I call it IL, the abbreviation of the 2 letters E and L. And E and L stands for entanglement at large. Because entanglement at large means that everything is connected with everything, more or less, because there is no separateness. And this is a kind of a logical derivation of something which others call spirit or mind. And so I have these 2 kingdoms, the kingdom of separateness, which is the physical universe, and then the kingdom of non-separateness, which is mind or spirit, or in Indian tradition, it's called Brahman. And in this Indian tradition, the physical universe is called Maya. And in this greater picture, I had the solution to find out what I am, because the experience of knowing is my participation in spirit, in mind. Because spirit or mind is, one could say, pure knowing, pure information.
Pure understanding?
It's part of it, yes. As an example, if you observe yourself, what is a thought? A thought is a knowing, but in the original form, a thought has no form. There are no words. There are no pictures. There are no sounds. When you have a thought or an experience like loving something or someone, in its purest form, or in its purest state, it has no form, no words, no images, no sound. And then if you're an artist, like a writer, you write maybe a 1,000-page book about your love experience. So you put this into words, you give it a form, and now as a form, it is communicable. But this form, even if it's 5,000 pages, is only a shadow of your original, formless knowing or experience. Make sense to you?
Well, I think so. You know, this non-mathematic mind is really tuned in to try to understand. It almost sounds like you're talking a little bit about what Plato understood, right? About the dividing line or the allegory of the cave.
Yep.
I think he even uses the term form, if I'm not mistaken, when he talks about the shadow versus the fact versus the concept, and then the form. I'm not sure that I completely understand that, but in any event, so let me ask this. Now I'm going to drop a big bomb here. So, you know, I'm a practicing Christian.
Okay.
Where does God come into this picture from your point of view, or maybe you don't? Well, let me not taint your answer. In your way of thinking, you know, where is God in all of this?
Okay.
If you believe there's a God, I guess I'd have to preface a little bit there.
That's a very good question, actually, because something that can be denoted as God, something between quotes, is yet another ingredient. So I gave you these two ingredients that you need to understand everything, which is the kingdom of separateness and the kingdom of non-separateness, okay, also called the physical universe and mind. The third component is a kind of an property of mind. It is an order that connects everything. The Greek word for order is cosmos. So cosmos is not the universe, although it's often used as a synonym. The order, the cosmos is the order in the universe.
Wow, that's fascinating.
And this order is what some people call God. They give it the idea of a being in between. In my perspective, it's this order. But the idea of an order is more abstract than the idea of a God or a deity. But in the end, it's the same. So my understanding after all these years of research is that, and before I say this, I want you to go with me through a thought experiment.
A what experiment?
A thought experiment.
Okay.
Imagine a cell, and the cell splits. So then you have two cells. Now, which of the following is true? Number one, the original cell died and two new cells were born. Two, case two, option two. The original cell lives on as the first new cell And the second new cell is a child that was created, that was born. The third option is the other way around. And the fourth option is the original cell now lives in two bodies. Now, when you understand, yeah,
please.
Go ahead.
No, please.
When you understand that, when you watch this process of a cell splitting, then it's always one thing until a very, very short moment when one becomes two. So death would have to occur in this microsecond, and birth would need to occur in this microsecond, because it cannot occur before or after. So what is your idea? Which of the four?
I'm not going to be very fair here, but it seems to me it's somewhere between 2 and 4. But I guess my belief is that it would not necessarily die, but that the second one was born out of the first one, and therefore would not then number 4 be true, that the first one exists in both. If I understand correctly, again, you're dealing with a right brainer here.
So no, you see, the point is we need this thought experiment. So the only reasonable solution is 4, not this cell on in 2 bodies, and which brings us to the insight that we need to separate life from bodies. Life is something different. Life is something, let's say, mental, something that happens in this kingdom of non-separateness. It's a phenomenon there. And bodies are in this other kingdom, in the kingdom of separateness, in the physical universe, are what I call perspectives of this life. So this one life. And if you continue this thought experiment, then finally you see that there is one life, and this life is the greatest form of life, has the universe as its body. So everything in the universe is a part of this one life, just like each of your 35 trillion cells is a part of your body. And there are programs in you, genetic programs, and also sensory motor programs, and some more, that hold your body together, that make sure that each cell in your body fulfills its purpose as part of your body.
Is this the order?
That's the order. That's the order in you. And likewise, there is an order that connects everything in the universe to a great whole. And the greatest whole is all of the universe. And the order that connects everything with each other is this cosmos, or some may say God. And each of us has to fulfill its purpose as part of the whole.
I was just holding this question, waiting for you to finish. Please go on.
Yeah, so each of us has a purpose, just like every skin cell or liver cell or heart cell or blood cell in your body has a purpose within your body. And so each of us has a purpose, and everything has a purpose. And the purpose of the so-called dead matter, like a stone or even an electron, their purpose is to behave just the way we understand it, because we have the science of physics. And that's the behavior they have. And the so-called living things like cells and plants and animals, they behave in much more complex ways than matter. But they also behave always truthfully.
Mm.
And truthfully in this case means fulfilling their purpose as part of the whole. Every mosquito, every so-called weed has a purpose as part of the whole. And non-human beings on this planet all fulfill their purpose. With our tool, with which we can, with which we are motile in, actually in time, we can go in the past, we can go in the future. And with this tool, we have the ability to act not truthfully. We can not fulfill our purpose. And for me, the most striking example is the 2004 tsunami in the Indian Ocean, in which 230,000 people died, but almost no animals.
This is the one over in Phuket that, yes, of Thailand, yeah.
Yeah, and so many people died, but almost no animals. Were you aware of this?
No. No.
Okay, so almost no animal died. Why didn't they die?
I suppose in the context of this conversation, my thought is because they acted exactly as they should.
Exactly. And so how did they know is not the question, because their knowing has several components. I know what I feel, a feeling. And the feeling is the same as a perception, because the word feel comes from the Old English word phelan, which means to perceive. Mm-hmm. And all we ever perceive, all we ever feel is the state of our body. Mm-hmm. Even if we see, say, a tree, we don't see the tree. Mm-hmm. We feel the body's, we perceive the body state that is a result of light being reflected from the tree, falling into my eyes, then generating an electromagnetic state of my nervous system and brain. And we have learned to call this, I see a tree.
Yes, yes.
We always, the only thing we ever perceive / feel is the state of our body that comprises the electromagnetic state of our nervous system and brain and the physicochemical state of our tissues and organs. So perceptions and feelings are one part of what we know, of our current knowing. The second part is what we think for us humans. The third part is these familiarities we spoke about earlier.
Our memory.
I'm familiar with that person.
Yeah.
And the fourth part is what we call intuition. Mm. That's non-sensory information that is not connected with our body. And animals have, so we have these four components, and animals have the same, but no thoughts. So animals have perceptions / feelings. They have familiarities. That's why your dog recognizes you. And they have intuition.
They have intuition. Interesting.
And they always act 100% according to these three inputs. And they had the intuition that they have to flee. And they left coastal areas hours before the tsunami hit.
That's crazy.
We humans also have intuitions because we are, biologically, we are animals. But we have thoughts. And with the thought, we can reflect. We can say,
why is this? What's going on?
What's going on?
You know?
I have an urge that I want to say visit some inland, maybe some Buddha temple. But my partner says, no, let's stay here. We'll have a relaxing day on the beach.
Oh.
So I had the impulse to leave.
So you're connecting these two things, the intuition that without knowing that something's going to happen, and therefore I want to go visit the Buddha temple.
Yes.
Is this what you're saying? Okay.
Yes, because you see, all the animals fled in
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
We are animals too. So for sure, each human also had some impulse to flee.
Wow.
But we can think.
Yeah.
We can say, oh no, I have planned to meet this person today, or let's go to the Buddhist temple tomorrow. Yeah. So
I see.
often the thinking, which comes often from programs, makes us behave in a certain way. And we humans experience such conflicts between intuition and thoughts.
It might even be fair to say, and I'm really asking this question, not making a declaration here, but that we would be more intuitive beings if our thoughts didn't get in the way.
Exactly. Very well phrased.
Mm.
And this is why if we want to grow, we have to learn to control our thoughts. That begins with observing our thoughts.
I see.
Because from my experience, 99% of our thoughts come from programs, from social programming. Thoughts, thinking, the mind, as the tool for thinking is the mind, is a tool. Now imagine, and our hand is a tool. Imagine we would always move our hand, have no control, because it's always moving. And that's what happens with our mind. It's always thinking, except when we are asleep.
Yeah, you can't grasp anything if your hand's already moving. Maybe
Exactly.
the same idea. Yeah. You can't grasp whatever if your mind is always turning.
Because when you think, you are not in awareness. You're not in the present.
Very interesting.
And intuition happens in the present.
Mm.
Yeah. And the thinking throws you out of awareness. The more you think, the less you are aware. And the less you are aware, the less you are aware of intuitions, because intuition is always in the present.
But then you can't really exist appropriately unless these two things come together, right? I can't stop thinking and be more intuitive. So in other words, it shouldn't be a dichotomy, right? It's not either think or be intuitive. Don't you have to apply these two simultaneously to, I guess, direct your lives? I don't know what the right question is.
You don't really need to think 100%.
Okay, I mean, fair enough.
Because a lot of your thinking is just like mulling over things. Yeah, it's you're always having the same thoughts. Yeah, and most of your thoughts, most of your thinking is not constructive. It doesn't contribute to a better life.
Fair enough. Yes.
Yeah, it's more a kind of a distraction. Yeah. Now, as you learn more control over your thinking, you have more access, you are more aware, and you achieve this through what some people call meditation. Actually, meditation is maybe a dangerous term to use, because 10 people have 10 different understandings of what meditation is. The key is really to go into silence.
I see.
Go into silence to and then if you are in silence, and this happens, you can achieve this when you start observing your own thoughts. You go on a meta level. You observe yourself thinking. That means you distance yourself from thinking somehow. And then, as a self-exploration exercise, you analyze where these thoughts come from. Why do I think what I think? And then you go deeper and deeper and deeper. And if you understand why you think what you think, it becomes easier for you to not think this, say, destructive thought.
Very interesting. And so then, what then becomes the purpose of meditation, and what would be the ultimate outcome once you continue to practice meditation? And as you said, it becomes easier to not think. Where are you going with all of that? Not you personally, but where, what's the purpose of meditation, and what should be, or what could be the outcome of practicing meditation?
Okay, so maybe for your audience, I don't like to use the word meditation here, because it's often misunderstood.
Yes.
Go into silence. Let's use this. So times of silence. The answer to your question has to do with what I am, because I said I am mind inhabiting this physical body, this able body. Now in mind, nothing is separate. And just to cut the longer explanation short, mind is everything. Mind is all. And mind includes the history of the universe. Everything that anyone or anything ever experienced, and every experience is a knowing, is fed into this mind. Also this universal mind, this universal spirit is, so to say, the memory of the whole universe. And if we are, I say if we are this that inhabits this body, then we should be able to access everything, to know the whole universe, the history of the whole universe.
Wow, well, that's deep.
And according to my theory of mind, that's exactly the case. And one of the let's do something different. Are you aware? Do you know Aldous Huxley, the British writer?
Huxley?
Huxley, Aldous Huxley.
I don't know if I'm familiar with that. With Aldous Huxley? I don't think so. Huxley. I don't believe so.
Yeah. Aldous Huxley, one of his works is Doors of Perception. And in this work, he mentions the French philosopher Henri, what's this? I don't recall the name, unfortunately. It's a French philosopher, Henri Bergson. And he quoted Henri Bergson saying that potentially everyone can know everything that happens anywhere in the universe or has happened anywhere in the universe. It's the function of our brain to reduce this enormous amount of information to the small part that is required for our survival.
Yeah, makes sense.
But potentially, we have what he calls mind at large, which is the great mind. And I personally know people who have access to this, who have mind at large. And if you practice going into silence, you may or may not, depending on what your life purpose is, receive more information than you have now. And what we call intuition is part of that, because these animals, through what we call intuition, they accessed information from something that happened 6,000 miles away, namely the earthquake that created the tsunami. And this information was not available via physical senses.
Right. Makes sense. I mean,
so information, intuition is a kind of, and this is why if you go into silence, you have a much clearer access to what we call intuition. And you will receive this, say, whispering voices, that is information from wherever, but that has relevance for your life, that has relevance for you fulfilling your purpose as part of the whole.
Why, Bernhard, don't the more of us behave this way? You know, why it would appear to me that maybe there are, let's just say in the larger scheme of things, really only a handful of people maybe that grasp this, and that even more operate their lives or conduct their lives in such a way, if what you're saying is true, and I'm not pushing back, I'm just asking if this is true, why aren't we more understanding and behaving in such a fashion that you're talking about, with more intuition?
Yes, I have this big picture as part of years of research, only because more than 10 years ago, I decided to explore the question, what am I? Before that, I was, like everyone else, 99% of the time on autopilot, which means controlled by my programs.
Sure.
And this 99% is a number that is hard to swallow. Yeah. Understanding that 99% of my behavior, 99% of my thinking comes from programs. That's not me.
The subconscious?
Yeah. Part of the subconscious is are the programs.
The habits and so forth, yes.
Yeah. Now, basically, we are acting 99% of our time as robots. We are on autopilot.
I believe that.
Yeah. So just look around. If you look at people with this mindset, then you can see it.
Yes, agree.
It's getting worse.
Agree.
It's getting worse.
Agree.
Even 2,300 years ago, when the old Greek, in ancient Greece, people were 95% of the time on autopilot. That's what Aristotle said. Aristotle said 95% of what we do comes from habits, and habits are programs. So in ancient Greek, people were 95% of the time on autopilot. Now we have much more programming, all the media, internet, TV, radio, books, everything. So for my research, I would say most people are on autopilot 99.99%.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt that. I don't know, but I can believe it. It would explain a lot.
Some people are on autopilot only 99%, only compared to the others, because these 99% people have 1% freedom of thinking, creative thinking, while everyone else, or most of everyone else, has not 1% freedom. So these people, and that's the people like us, so-called spiritual people, awake people. We are not awake. We are just 100 times more awake than those who are deeply.
Right.
And more than 10 years, I had this 1% freedom.
Yeah.
And this 1% freedom and lucky circumstances, because I was inspired by people and I was so curious that I said, okay, I really want to know. Mm. And so I started with this 1%. I started to explore myself. And in the process, it starts as a battle 1% against 99%. After some time, it becomes 2 against 98.
Yes,
and it's a
truly,
lot of work.
Yeah, you truly are a mathematician, aren't you?
Yes.
So, Bernhard, let's stop here for just a moment. So this is tricky because I need to turn my attention to the next podcast. But here's the thing. This is so fascinating. I would like to pick up this again and keep going. May we do that at another time? Maybe even next week. I mean, I'm just fascinated by what you're saying, and I don't want to cut it short. So if you would allow, I will send you another link and again, find a place that's convenient for you. Fridays are often very good for me. This is when I typically podcast, but the next go round, I'm going to, make sure, you're a unique guest, Bernhard, and I appreciate what you're saying. I have only maybe 10,000 questions, so it shouldn't be too bad. Wow, this is fascinating.
This has so many facets.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and I've always been good at seeing patterns, but after this, especially 3.5 years in silence, I can see much larger patterns than ever before. Yeah. So I've become a better scientist.
I can imagine.
I see all these dots, and I see now how they connect.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
please, yeah. I'm sorry. Please.
No,
I'm just curious, just very quickly, and I'm gonna stop here. But in your way of thinking, who is the most fascinating person alive at this moment?
For everyone, it's the same answer. It's me.
Okay, so if you were to think outside of you, just with your, is there a person that's alive right now that really fascinates you in terms of how they think and so forth?
It's hard to pick one. So one person is the one who inspired me to go on this journey, because she went on this journey 2 years earlier.
Interesting.
2 years before me, and I listened to one of her lectures about exploring the question, what am I? And she has this incredible, I think she has large mind at large.
Nice.
She has this incredible clairvoyance where she literally, if I would talk to her now on the phone and say, I'm talking to Kevin here, then she would see your life history.
That's nuts.
It's amazing.
That's incomprehensible for me.
Exactly. And if I would not have personally witnessed it,
right?
Yeah. She's sort of disappeared. I had sessions with her for years. I learned a lot from her.
Imagine.
And she stopped giving that sessions, I think 3 years ago. And there's no way to contact her. Wow. There are no traces on the internet, nothing.
Yeah. And that probably doesn't surprise you, does it?
No, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.